What? Okay, that was weird. Anyway, sorry. Welcome back to our Oscar-A-Thon. We are gonna be covering all the movies every decade from the beginning of ever since the Academy and the Oscars were a thing. We're gonna be covering every decade. And today we are doing the 2000s, so not quite as much today. And just seeing what we think are the best horror films, what would be nominated for the best horror films. Then it's up to you guys to figure out who do you think the winners would be. So let's jump right into it. I'm once again joined by Cinematic Sterling and Right Dude. So thank you guys for joining me on this wonderful Thursday evening. And let's get started. And let's start with pissing people off. Well, maybe. I don't know. House of the Devil is the first one I have. So okay. I've mentioned this before. I have mentioned this before, and we can get into it, after I speak. But House of the Devil is a Ty West movie. It's beloved by most people, but it's pretty much hated by this group because we've seen bits and pieces and it's very boring, and I've seen other people say it's a very boring movie. However, I think this would be right up the Academy's alley because it is like a slow-paced, dreary, melancholy, nihilistic movie, and it also deals with cults and demons. And I feel like the Academy would like that, cults and demons. I know we don't like this movie, but try to make an argument, guys.
Well, I'll be honest with you. I have not even seen this movie. In fact, the only reason I know about this movie's existence is because Film Master Adam, he did like a epic film fail of like a lot of the Ty West films. But seeing how this does have a fan base of some kind. I could honestly, and seeing how they always like. The Academy sometimes like the things that scares us what you don't see kind of thing. I mean I don't get that personally, but then again that's just me speaking. But it's like I could see this being right up their alley. So
I think what we don't see can be executed very well. The Witch I think does that very well.
Yeah.
And so, more often than not, it's executed very poorly. But, Devin, did you ever see this movie, or do you only know of the epic film fail?
I haven't seen it. I heard a lot of mixed things about it. I hear a lot of like the artsy people like kill this as a masterpiece, but the casual audience goers don't like it.
Yeah.
But from what both of you said, the Oscars would totally pick this.
Yeah. So, but I will say, I think we can all universally agree, wasting Dee Wallace is a sin, but that's beside the point. Next one we have, hopefully it's a little bit easier. Coraline. We all love this movie, and we decided to open it up to animated movies. I think I mentioned one of them beforehand. I think it was Paranorman. So I might as well include it in the horror film thing. And we all love this movie. We've all seen it. We all love it. It definitely has, even though it's like not nearly as fucked up as the book is because Neil Gaiman, but Henry Selick does do a magnificent job in capturing the Gaiman style while also keeping that balance of like relatively kid friendly, but also like instilling nightmares in you if need be. So I think this definitely rides the fantastical horror side very well. And I think, the Academy would like kind of like that. And plus, I don't know. I just feel like it could work. And I feel like, the stop motion, I think, is respectable. And they usually, even though a lot of them don't win, I feel like the Academy respects stop motion. So,
yeah.
Devin, you being the biggest stop motion nut here and the biggest also Henry Selick fan here, what do you think?
Coraline to me is Coraline to me is a perfect movie. It's one of my favorite anime movies. It's one of my favorite films. This is not a kids movie. PG rating or not, this movie is not for kids. And if it weren't for Up, I think I would have loved to have seen this win for best animated feature that year.
Yeah.
As much as I love Fantastic Mr. Fox, but yeah.
I think for me, because I know in fact, I wish this is a movie I wish I'd seen in theaters. Unfortunately, I didn't get it. I didn't get a chance to see it, but my brother saw it, and he was like, "You have to really watch this." So I sat down and watched it, and I was just like, "Wow." This is this honestly, I agree with Devin. This is not for kids. So this is
Well, I mean, you could still show them because fuck them kids, but
but
it depends if they can handle it. That's
that depends. So but I feel like this could be like a really great contender. I mean, it already is. It already got nominated for best animated feature. And honestly,
exactly.
And as much as I love Up, I think that this probably should have won best animated feature. So,
yeah,
I love Up, but I just think that this is honestly even better than that.
And that brings in another good argument, Rob, there's precedent. They did nominate it, so it's not totally out of the, out of the norm that it would be nominated. So I think that's another good case for it. But the next movie is Triangle. It's a weirder movie. I know you guys haven't seen this one. But from what I've heard of this movie, it's like essentially, people get stuck on a boat and, shit ensues. From what I've heard about this movie, I know the user Possessed by Horror. She is a big fan of 2000s horror. That's her favorite decade of horror, which is certainly weird because usually 2000s are not the best time for horror. But she has a lot of really good videos. I recommend her stuff. But Triangle is one that she absolutely loves. But even outside of that, I've heard a lot of good things about it. This is kind of like an underrated gem sort of movie. Very strange, kind of a Jacob's Ladder reality bending kind of movie. And I feel like they would maybe, not a ton of great 2000s horror movies were coming out. So maybe they would nominate this as sort of an underrated diamond in the rough kind of thing. So yeah, I think not a ton to say about this one since I haven't even seen it. So
but I haven't heard it. I mean, is it? I was going to say, would it be like the horror version of Triangle of Sadness?
No, this has less vomit and diarrhea. So, but yeah, that's essentially the vibe it gets. But I think it would still be good. Maybe sort of since this didn't get a lot of attention, let's nominate it kind of thing. So then we have Orphan. I know a lot of this received a mixed response. A lot of people, I feel like it's gotten a lot more love nowadays. But at the time, I think it had a good enough critical response that it could have been nominated. Again, it kind of had a home wrecking kind of vibe to it, but it was also he had the fucked up twist and all that. And I think they would gravitate towards a child actor who does a really good job, like they kind of did for Sixth Sense, and we'll eventually get to that. So I think that would be a main contender and the big twist. I know that maybe that's not enough, but I think it has enough going for it that I think it would be nominated.
I probably would say so. I mean, honestly, this is probably a hot take, but I actually do enjoy the first Orphan. So I know that I don't
know if that's a hot take, but maybe it is. I don't know.
Because I know a lot of people that I talk to, they're kind of about it, but I enjoyed the first Orphan, and this does seem like it does, given that kind of those vibes that the Oscars normally go with, the
vibe,
like the vibes, the creepy child, she's not who she seems kind of thing. And I mean, the twist. I mean, I don't want to spoil it for anybody who hasn't seen it, though. But let's just say the twist will throw you off guard.
Yeah.
And
Are you going ahead, Devin?
in the words of that meme, how I feel about this movie. All right. Like it's okay. I mean, the reveal is easily the best part of the movie, though. But I don't know. This isn't one I've ever really loved.
Right. Well, we'll get to another one you don't really love that much soon. Don't worry. Lovely Bones, not this one. This is a different one, but Lovely Bones. Even though you can maybe not categorize this as a horror movie, it deals with a lot of fucked up shit. To have it not, like, how could it not be not categorized as horror? And plus, it's got Peter Jackson, and this is like the closest we've ever gotten to him returning to his horror roots. So, I do think that, I mean, it deals with, like, there is, like, a fantastical element, like, she's stuck in purgatory, in addition to the fact that Stanley Tucci's performance is fucking spine-chilling, and it deals with, the murder of a young girl, it deals with, I think there was also, like, some pedophilia in there as well, rape. So that, like, could also be that. So this is one that's like, it's like close enough to a horror movie. It's mostly a family drama, but I feel like it has enough horror elements that, like, the Academy would count it. And plus, the Academy doesn't like horror movies, so like, I guess we'll count it. It's technically a horror movie, so yeah. I think Lovely Bones is definitely a good contender.
I mean, I haven't seen this movie. Is this the one that's based on
Alexandro?
Is this the one that's based on the Stephen King novel?
No, it's not a Stephen King. It's based on a book, but not a Stephen King book.
I thought there was a Stephen King novel called Lovely Bones.
But you're thinking of Bag of Bones.
Maybe I'm thinking of another
Bag of Bones.
Bag of Bones. That's what I was thinking of.
Yeah, that had Pierce Brosnan in a miniseries. It was terrible. So yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, Lovely Bones, it definitely has that creep factor, and I think that would be a good contender for the Academy. Next one, Let the Right One In. This is a classic Swedish horror film.
This movie's fucking awesome.
I have not seen Let Me In yet, but we did already talk about that one. But Let the Right One In is definitely, it deals with, again, child actors who do a very good job. It's definitely... It has like a spooky sort of nature to it, and it deals with like a new way of showcasing like the vampire legend kind of thing. So yeah, I think like it does a lot of things like what Rome was saying last time. It's creative, and I think the Academy would gravitate towards that, like a very creative sort of film. So
yeah, they totally would.
Oh yeah, I definitely could see them going for this movie,
Yeah. But yeah, it kind of speaks for itself almost.
Yeah.
So let's move on.
Oh yeah.
This is
awesome.
Rob, did you have something else to say? Sorry.
No, I was just saying the movie's awesome. This is something that I'm sure the Academy will just be all for. So
yeah.
Not really much else. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Lake Mungo, I've heard of this one. This was kind of like a weirder one. It's like kind of from, I don't know a ton about it, but again, I was kind of stretched thin for horror movies during the 2000s, so I decided to include it. Maybe that's a bad
I've never even heard of this movie.
I had heard of it before I included it. Like, it sounded kind of familiar, but from whatever, I think it's like partly found footage, partly like an actual movie. Like it like discovers kind of like I think what VHS did, like the first one, like they discover like this footage and then like, it's like a ongoing mystery. So not a ton to say, but I know like a little bit about it. So I decided to include it. And speaking of the other movie that Devin doesn't like very much, however, I do think that they would nominate this one maybe for a possible popularity edition, because once in a while the Academy does like to include a popularity edition. But even then, like it's sort of like the grounded creep factor. It could happen to you, sort of thing. Like, why did you attack us? You were home, that kind of thing, that kind of vibe. I think the Academy would kind of gravitate towards that, like like the vulnerability of it all and all that. So yeah, I think The Strangers would definitely be added to that list. Anybody else got anything to say?
I haven't seen. I mean, I know of this movie. I haven't seen it. I haven't, nor have I seen any of the other Stranger movies.
I will say this: the characters in Strangers Chapter 1 make the two characters in this look like they graduated from fucking Harvard. Like, I thought the characters in this movie were fucking stupid. Stranger Chapter 1 said, "Hold my beer," but yeah, I don't like this movie.
I know you don't, but do you think the Academy would nominate it at least, maybe for a popularity edition? Because it was popular
I don't know.
at the time.
I mean, it was more of a cult following than like actual like garnering praise. It didn't get great reviews when it came out.
I remember hearing a lot about this. Maybe I made a mistake, but
Then again, it's like 2008. It's like there weren't a whole lot of great horror films. It's like, don't expect to see The Cell on this category.
Yeah. So, and again, I was a little bit stretched then, so it's entirely possible I made a mistake. But with that, then people would not vote for it. But yeah, again, as I keep saying, I was stretched a bit thin. There's only so many horror movies to come out. During the 2000s, there's only so many good horror movies that have come out.
I meant to say, like, a recorrection of myself from like a minute ago. It's One Missed Call is the one I was thinking of, not The Cell.
The Cell is, that's the Tarsem Singh movie with Vince Vaughn. I
meant to say, like, the what, like, there weren't a whole lot of great 2008 films. Don't expect One Missed Call on this list.
Yeah. But the director of this just came out with a new film, with Speak No Evil, and this makes Speak No Evil, the remake of Speak No Evil, look like like this is like the original is to the remake. Like, Eden Lake is a very like fucked up and disturbing movie, very bleak, and it kind of has the same vibe of like The Strangers, where it's like a nice holiday and strangers, not the strangers, but people then come in and encroach upon that and make your life a living hell. But yeah, I remember I was like curious about this movie, and then I got the ending spoiled for me, and I'm like, I never want to watch this movie now. But yeah, it could be like categorized as sort of a like revenge sort of type of thing, like the woman like has all this happen to her and then she like takes revenge type of thing. But yeah, I think that could be a really good thing that the Academy would like. This again, I'm stretching it a little bit, but I think it could be nominated. Next we have Pontypool. Now this is another one of those cult hits that I decided to add. I know, again, that's probably not something the Academy would go for, but I've heard nothing but amazing things about this movie, although it's one of those and I do plan to watch it later this month, but I've heard that it's one of those cases where it's like, yeah, you have to know so little about it where you can't even like look it up, just go into as blind as you can. So I'm not going to talk about it a lot outside of the summary I have here, but
based on the description that I'm reading, it's like, that sounds a little close to home from a few years ago. I don't know, like Outbreak of Deadly Virus, which affects.
I don't know. There's a lot of like, a lot of movies like that. But
I know, like pandemic kind of movies. Yeah, I know, but it's just like after what we experienced lockdown, years ago.
Yeah. That's fair, but I've heard nothing but amazing things about this movie, and it kind of went under the radar a little bit. But maybe like the Academy would kind of be like, "Oh, hey, this was actually known. Let's include it." So yeah, that's kind of my argument for it. And then for 2007, this is right up the Academy's alley.
Yes.
It's a period piece. It's a musical. It's by a
This
famous director. It has all the hallmarks, and it
yes.
has a lot of great actors in it. So yeah,
Yeah.
this was
I
definitely.
would definitely say, yeah, I would agree. This is definitely something the Academy would eat up. Because I mean, it is like you said, period piece. It's based on a well-known musical.
Yeah.
It does have that. And didn't this also get nominated for
I think it
any?
got maybe nominated for like production design or something like that.
I'm gonna look it up because I think that it also got recognized by the Academy. I'm just trying to remember what.
And if that's the case, there is precedent, you know.
Yeah.
So, I think it has a lot going for it. And the thing is, there's a lot of history. This is like based on a musical play from the 1800s, so it's been a part of film history for a while. So the Academy, I think, would gravitate towards that as well, like the historical part of it, not within the film, but outside of the film as well. So yeah, I think that would be another big argument for it. Resident Tim
Yeah.
Burton super fanatic. What do you think?
This might be kind of shocking, but this is actually one of my lesser favorites from Burton.
Yeah.
But out of
But it
everything you
does.
said, do you agree?
Yeah, I do. I mean, it does. It would meet their criteria.
Yeah. Or at least, I would say it's their criteria, but like the things they usually go for type of things.
And
Please
by the
pick
way,
Freddy versus Jason. We'll see when we get there. So you'll just have to
by the way,
watch it.
it did win for best art direction, and it did I think it got nominated for what was the other thing? Might have overlooked it. Oh, costume design.
Makes sense.
And I'm trying to see what else. Sorry, I should have been a little bit more prepared.
No, it's fine.
Yeah. And Johnny Depp did get a best actor nominee. So even though he didn't win, but
yeah. Sorry, I just
because he lost to Daniel Day-Lewis in There Will Be Blood.
Yeah, that seems like a good case for that. But yeah, there is precedent for it, so makes sense. I think that kind of speaks for itself at this point, but we still have other nominations. So I did bring up The Mist. I think this would be a case of it has a very anti-religious message. It's very bleak. It is kind of at least kind of creative, and it's also Stephen King, and I feel like the Academy would kind of go for Stephen King a little bit, as some of our past nominations in this little video series we have would be the case. So it's a great film. I genuinely believe it's a great film, and I think the Academy would go for it with all the things I mentioned for it. So
it does seem like it pretty much does tie into a lot of things that the Oscars would go for.
Yep.
Like they love the horror films revolving around religion kind of thing. Like those kinds of discussions. And I mean, Stephen King, I mean, I know normally that the Academy unless it's like Misery, like we talked about last week or something, they're not I know for Stephen King, they could go either way. So, because sometimes they don't like something that's super popular kind of thing, but I feel like this could be an exception for with Stephen King and all. Like with Stephen King horror, I mean, not dramas, because obviously the Academy would go for Stephen King dramas. So,
right.
I don't know. I'm rambling.
That's fine. But yeah, I think The Mist has a lot of things going for it. I think the anti-religious thing they would definitely go for. So, but yeah,
that is. And isn't The Mist directed by Frank Darabont?
Yes. So that also could be the case as well. But yeah, The Mist,
Shawshank
great film.
Redemption.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, and they even said that if I think they did a poll recently, like I don't know, like maybe I think it was like maybe not recently, but like 10 years ago, they if the Academy had the chance again to have a winner, if they could go back and change stuff, they would have Shawshank Redemption win over Forrest Gump, and then they would also have Saving Private Ryan win over Shakespeare in Love. So there's also that as well. So yeah, next is The Orphanage, also known as El Fornado. And this is a J.A. Bayona film, and I think that this would, it has again, it's not really a lot to explain. It just kind of has the vibe of it. Like it's a very bleak. It's centered around children. I think it's like there's a lot of drama aspects as well. Centered about a woman taking back she has like it has the mystery of it. It has like the drama elements. It's like has the good horror touches, like a good spooky vibe, but not too much. So yeah, I think The Orphanage was a very well made film.
It's very good.
Yes, I think yeah, it might not be the most perfect film ever, but I think I think it had a lot going for it. So
Mhm.
yeah, The Orphanage, great film. I'm glad that American remake didn't happen. So small
I don't
victories.
have anything to say because I haven't seen this movie.
No, you're good. Next is The Invasion. Now I know that this wasn't really beloved all that much when it first came out. It doesn't have a ton going for it, but however, I see it as more of from a historical point of view, like Invasion of the Body Snatchers. It's been, it has a place in film history. It's been remade and redone so many
Yeah.
times that it's like, all right, let's nominate
Yeah.
this one. And plus, it's got it's got Nicole Kidman, who's like a favorite among the Academy.
Yeah.
And but yeah, it's got James Bond fighting aliens. Like that's just Kino right there, right?
Yeah, I was gonna bring up that I can like seeing how the pretty much Invasion of the Body Snatchers is considered like a horror classic and all, and it's been and this is honestly the second time isn't it the second time they've remade Invasion of the Body Snatchers?
This was the
70s.
This was the fourth adaptation, third remake.
I thought because there was the original, then there was the 70s, and then there was this.
There was the 90s one as well, Body Snatchers.
There was one for the 90s?
Yeah, Body Snatchers.
I didn't even know about that one.
Yeah,
Me neither,
and it's also there was also a TV show as well.
Yeah,
called
despite the fact that Nicole Kidman has ruined going to AMC theaters, I mean the Academy really loves her despite that. So
yeah, the 90s movie has Meg Tilly and Arlie Ermy and Forrest Whitaker in it. So
okay.
And it takes place on a army base. A little weird, but but yeah, that's it for The Invasion. Might not be the best choice, but again, I'm fiending here, guys. I gotta
grasping at straws.
Yeah, grasping at straws a little bit. Speaking of grasping at straws, Paranormal Activity. Yeah, this movie isn't great. However, this I view as the popular edition. Oh, a lot of people liked this movie. It was a huge hit. It was like the big, like next to Blair Witch, it was like the next biggest, like independent funded horror movie ever, and blah 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 blah, all that shit.
Yeah, I mean, even though we can all agree on this movie.
I mean, I haven't seen it, so I can't actually judge. It could be the greatest thing ever. So
you're not missing much. You're not missing much.
I mean, maybe I'll eventually
I would say
it, but yeah.
Okay, but anyway, I would say that seeing how, because this was because like between this and another popular found footage movie, which I'll never understand why it got so popular, but we'll get to that next time. I feel like this is something that the Oscars probably could be able to eat up. It is a no budget found
Very
footage movie.
creative
Yeah,
film. It's found
like
footage. They might like that. So
they might like that. And this is before like found footage exploded like in the
this is what caused it. Paranormal Activity pretty much.
this and
caused,
the other one that
Yeah.
I don't want to mention because we'll talk about that next time.
Yeah, but Paranormal Activity caused like the found footage boom of the late 2000s and early 2010s. Like that was like it was because of this movie. Kind of like how 28 Days Later, and we'll get to that soon enough, was the big like zombie boom of the 2000s, and it was there was also that. Yeah, there was. It's honestly probably better than the movie.
Honestly, if the Oscars nominated this movie, they might as well nominate that.
Walls the movie.
Yeah, Walls the movie, Doors Disappearing the movie, Toilets on the Ceiling the movie. Good.
This was Skidamarink before Skidamarink.
Yeah.
Both movies about nothing. Or movies.
Yeah. At least this one had like some sort of semblance of plot, though. But yeah, even though none of us really like, I mean, I can't judge it, but from what you guys have said, it's not good and it's definitely overrated. But I feel like because it got so popular that the Academy would kind of recognize that and still nominate it anyway. So next is Bug. Now, the big reason why I wanted to include this movie was because it is directed by William Friedkin. It was his big return to horror again after his last movie, The Guardian, which was not well fared. But it's definitely kind of has like a play-like quality where it's all in this like this motel room. It's got Ashley Judd, it's got Michael Shannon, so it's got like some really good like cast members a part of it before Michael Shannon really hit it big. But yeah, so it's again it's reality bending. I mean,
I've seen this. I've only seen this movie one time. And honestly, I just remember because I saw this in theaters. I think I was like in high school. I saw it with my mom, who was the big horror fanatic. Out of either of my parents, and I know neither of us really liked it that much. I mean, I don't know if I go back and watch it, I don't know if my opinions would change or not. But I guess you could say I guess I had kind of questionable taste when I was in high school. So, but
who's to say that's changed, Rob? Just kidding. I'm just kidding. But yeah, so I think it does have a bunch going for it, and it So it also has
but this is this is one of those psychological like plays with is it all in the person's mind or something, and that's something that the Academy could be able to eat up. Like I said, it's been years since I've even seen this, so I just remember not liking it back then. But who knows, if I go back and watch it, maybe I might see something that I didn't see before.
Possibly. Plans for Halloween? Doing this stream, revealing the results, and then watching Halloween. I might be hanging out with friends that day, but I'm not sure yet. So we'll see. But yeah, we're not here to talk about that right now because I might get too inundated with anecdotes and such. But what are you guys doing for Halloween? Just a quick little side note.
Whatever I feel like doing.
Just same play as usual. Dressed up, walk around my dad's neighborhood, scaring people. I'll be going as the Frankenstein monster.
Very nice. But next one is Bong Joon-ho's The Host. This was a bit more of a cult hit, but I feel like again they would still kind of recognize that a little bit. So I
enjoyed this movie, but I don't love it.
I don't love it, but a lot of people do, and there's a lot of, I feel like, a greatness like that accompanies it, I think. And it does have like a good like bleakness to it that I think the Academy would like. It I feel like it takes like B movie ideas, but pushes them up past those B movie ideas. So I think the Academy would kind of gravitate to like, oh, it's about a big scary monster, but it's more about like the family's reaction to the big scary monster than the big scary monster itself. So I think they would, kind of gravitate towards that a little bit. I think they would kind of vibe with that, I guess you could say. But Devin, as the only other person, what do you think? Do you agree, disagree?
I mean, I can see them nominating this.
Okay. But yeah, just kind of chugging along. This is, again, I'm grasping at straws here because I don't know if the Academy would like David Lynch. Maybe they would. Maybe they would throw him a bone every once in a while. But yeah, this is definitely it's a David Lynch movie. It's fucking weird. It's reality bending. It kind of, from what I've heard, it has like Mulholland Drive and Lost Highway vibes. But yeah, it's just as as David Lynch said, if you want to see the greatest performance of 2006, see Laura Dern's performance in Inland Empire. So yeah. I think I think the horror category would be like the Oscars continually throwing David Lynch a bone, but like not actually giving him anything. Like, hey, we're nominating you for something, and that's just kind of it. So yeah, I think they would maybe like just throw him a bone, like here's a nomination, and then boom, there you go. So I think that would be the overall vibe here. But maybe reality bending they would like. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Oh hey, look, it's everybody's favorite bed shitter.
Ew.
But yes, very ew. But before she was ew, she was Mandy Lane in All the Boys Love Mandy Lane. This was another cult hit. Yeah, that I could see that. Like from what little I know about Inland Empire, I could definitely see that. And we'll get to Wes Craven's New Nightmare eventually. But All the Boys Love Mandy Lane, again, grasping at straws here. And I think, from the actual horror fans that watched this, they all really liked it. It was an underground hit, but it had a good, like, kind of fucked up, like, mysterious kind of vibe to it. And, it kind of had, I know, sleepaway camp vibes a little bit. So yeah, I think they would possibly go for this. I know we don't like Amber Heard here, but nobody does. Amber Turd, as we like to say. But I still think that this would be something they could vibe with, possibly. Maybe. Anybody else have an argument for it?
I haven't seen it.
I haven't seen it. So.
Oh, Devin, I thought you saw it. Okay, my bad.
Nope.
But yeah, overall vibe, I think they would go for it. Then finally for another animated film, this one, again, it kind of blends the line between kids movie and not kids movie. It's a little bit more comedy driven than something like Coraline, and definitely less scary. But I feel like, they would commend it for its horror ideas. And, it's very creative. It like takes the whole idea of a haunted house, like, oh, it's not like something inside the house that's evil. It's the fucking house itself. So I think that that's kind of a creative idea that they would, I think, go for. It's got a good cast. Like all the kids do a good job in their respective roles. Yeah. And
Steve Buscemi is awesome.
I mean, that goes
it's
without
Steve Buscemi.
Saying. He's
Steve great in everything.
Fucking Buscemi. Yeah. So Steve Buscemi, fucking excellent. We don't even need to fucking say anything about that. But
even if you want to call this movie scary, and I'll make this point before I hop off because I have work in the morning. The part where you find out what happens to Deborah Cracker's wife is pretty dark.
Yeah,
it is.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like blending in, like, and also it's got Napoleon Dynamite in it, and with his like 2-bit cameo, which is pretty awesome. I liked that character.
Yeah.
Oh, you make me want to throw up into a piece of tinfoil and then eat it. Like I don't know why, but that whole
idiot.
I'll see you guys later.
I'll see you later. But yeah, I could see.
Interesting. I didn't know that. Thanks, Alexandra.
Yeah, this honestly does seem like it would be something that would be up for the Oscars. I honestly, if you were to ask me, I think this should have won Best Animated Feature over what actually won. You know,
Now I'm looking up what actually won.
Happy Feet. Happy Feet.
I don't mind Happy Feet, but yeah, this was the better movie.
Yeah, I agree.
I don't know if it was not. I think it was nominated.
This got nominated for Best Animated Feature. It was it was between this the first Cars, and Happy Feet. And honestly, if you ask me, I think this was the best of the three.
Yeah, but I think the reason that they went with Happy Feet was because it had like the humans, like, and that was like the first like major thing where like you really see like the attempt at real lifelike looking humans in a movie. And that's when it was like kind of getting started. So, but yeah, Monster House, great film. I watched a couple episodes of Haunting Hour. Never watched it a ton though. So yeah, that could be something. Maybe I'll watch that later. But yeah, next up is The Descent. Now I wish Devin were here because he would have a lot to say about this one. Both of us agree, great film, as long as it's the UK cut. Not the US cut. The US cut fucking sucks. It makes no sense. It's a bullshit cut. Takes away the ending. Stupid. UK cut, great. But yeah, The Descent, it's just like it's one of those cases where it's a movie so fucking good that it's just like the Academy would have to nominate. Even though it's not up their alley, it's bleak, it's weird, it's kind of gross, it's there's monsters and all that, but it's just like but however, it might be like, oh, it's about women, like a woman's like struggles, and it's like a group of women, and how strong they are and all that shit. So yeah, I think that they could go for that, but it just, again, The Descent is a movie that's just that fucking good that it's just like, all right, we gotta nominate it. It's just that fucking good, guys. I know you haven't seen it, so I'll move on. But yeah, I would Rob, if you can find the UK, if you can find the unrated cut, I would say fucking watch it. I might buy it and then force you guys to watch it one of these days, because you shouldn't watch the US cut. It's the US cut's on Max. Don't fucking watch it. Try to find the uncut / UK, the original UK cut, because that's the only cut that matters. Kind of like the assembly cut for Alien 3.
I gotcha.
But yeah, Exorcism of Emily Rose. Now, what I like about this one, and I think the Academy would go for, there is like the idea of there's like a heavy religious aspect. I mean, exorcism, hello.
Yeah.
But what I think that they would like here is the fact that there's more of like, it's not about the exorcism itself. It's about the aftermath and like examining on if it was actually an exorcism, like a proper exorcism, and she was possessed by a demon, or she wasn't, or it was mental illness. Looking up the actual true story, it was 100% mental illness, and this one obviously exaggerates it because they got to say based on a true story.
Yeah,
it's like, oh yeah, all that shit. But even then,
I mean, well, if, every time they try to make something that's based on a true story, they're always gonna fabricate it somehow.
Yeah. Oh
not,
yeah.
not
Most
entirely,
definitely.
But I do remember watching this movie. I remember really liking this even though I said, like, even when I was in high school, I had questionable taste in movies. But I feel like I do remember liking this movie because it's kind of like what I said, going back to the idea of, was it all was it all in their head or something? Was it like you have the priest being on trial for the murder of this girl and all, and was it a possession thing? Was it a mental illness? You're pretty much examining the pieces as it slowly falls into place.
Yeah. So, and I think even though she had a smaller role, I think Jennifer Carpenter did a really good job. I think it was I think Laura Linney did a really good job here. I mean, the entire cast did. I mean, Tom Wilkinson, explains for himself. Like, Tom Wilkinson's legend, so was. But but yeah, it's very loosely based on the exorcism of Annalise Mitchell and or Michelle, and that was most definitely um it was most definitely like if you look like 2 seconds, it was definitely mental illness. But if we're looking at it just as a film, I think the Academy would go for it because it's more about um like seeing the aspects of all the, like it's not just like, oh, it's another exorcism movie, it's the aftermath, and I think that that's creative enough that they would go for it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think
Yeah.
we have that. Then we have Hard Candy. Unfortunately, I have not watched this movie, but considering it's about pedophile entrapping a pedophile, and it's like trying and a
Oh.
teenage girl trying to one up like the cat. It's like a cat and mouse of like her and this pedophile. So it's just this really fucked up, disturbing kind of like thing, but it's a condemnation of pedophiles. So like, and at this
Smart.
point, we didn't know that that Hollywood was mostly made up of pedophiles. So they would, they would probably actually go for the like, oh yeah,
I'm
we'll
just
just leave it
honestly,
there.
I'm reading the description of this, and I'm just thinking of it like Home Alone, but with a pedophile. Kind of
I
just like where
guess you
she.
could, yeah, I guess you could kind of go for it like that.
Because I mean, like just setting up the traps, and then just the bad just getting tortured. A lot. I don't know.
Yeah. Um.
That was
So
the
yeah.
first thing that came to my mind.
Yeah. So overall, it's a very disturbing film, but it works for what it's going for. So yeah, I think the Academy would kind of go for this because it's definitely like this kind of it kind of has a Misery vibe a little bit. So I think that could be something they would like as well. But yeah, Elliot Page did a great job when he was in this. So I think from what little I seen, I started to watch it, but then I went to do something else and then I never went back to it. But from what I watched, it was pretty good. And Patrick Wilson goes without saying, such a great actor. So yeah, I think they would kind of go for this. Then we have Land of the Dead. I feel like this is kind of like the popular sort of edition. Like it was, George Romero's big grand return to the zombie genre. That might have been like, respectable to them. Like, oh, we got to nominate him because this, George Romero, it was because of him that we have the modern zombie. So might as well give him a nomination.
Honestly, that's the only way I could actually see the Academy going for it is because of George A. Romero, because he's like the king of the zombie genre. I mean, I haven't seen this. I haven't seen this movie. I think the only of his movies I've seen are like the original three, like
Yeah.
Night of the Living Dead, Dawn of the Dead, and Day of the Dead. So I think those are the only ones.
Land of the Dead, it's not a great movie, but it does have some satirization against the Bush administration, so they might like that. Good performance from Dennis Hopper. It's overall a fun movie. Unfortunately, has Asia Argento in it, and she doesn't die. But we can all dream. But yeah, I think they would nominate it for that respect, but little else outside of that because it's not that great of a movie, and I don't think they would nominate because maybe as a popular edition.
And at this point, it's like really hard to come up with great movies that the Academy would eat up in 2005.
Yeah,
like I don't see them. I don't see
Speaking
them.
of,
I was gonna say I don't see them. I don't see them nominating Boogeyman or Hide and Seek. It's just not really
so
good.
Skeleton Key is another one that was like kind of like one of those movies, but it kind of had some interesting ideas. It had a good bleak tone, but from what I know of it, I haven't seen it, but maybe they would go for it.
It's been so long since this was another movie that I saw. Like I think I remember renting this from the store one time, video store one time when I was in high school. I saw it one time and I was just like, well, that existed.
Yeah. So, Again, I'm grasping at straws here.
Well,
Guys. Don't
I
worry.
know.
We're gonna
2005
have more meaty stuff when we get
2005.
to
Let's just
the
say 2005
90s.
was not necessarily a good year in terms of horror movies.
Yeah.
So,
Although we do
and that's coming from someone who was in high school at that point.
yeah, so Shaun of the Dead, I know it's a horror comedy, but it's still horror, so it counts again. Grasping. So, I mean, honestly, it's a great movie. I know a lot of people love it. It was, satirizing the zombie genre at the time
Yeah.
before it really took off. So
I remember my older brother was the one that introduced me to this movie. So I love this movie. I love this movie so much. The only it does satirize the only I could see maybe the Academy might go for it because it is like zombie genre, but I think the only drawback is that it's leaning into comedy, and I don't know how the Academy feels about those kinds. But I would say this is probably one of the better horror comedies, I would say.
oh yeah.
In fact, I think I prefer this more than Zombieland, honestly. I don't know if that's a hot take or not.
No, most people. I personally like Zombieland more. I think it's a better movie, but I think Shaun of the Dead was just so popular that it was a big popular addition that I think they would. Don't
get me wrong. I like Zombieland too. Well, you know what I meant. You know what I mean. I like the first Zombieland, but I just think that this is better. So, but that's just me speaking.
Yeah. Next we have Saw. I think they would kind of go for this as sort of like a creative indie route.
I could probably see this more as honestly, I'd see probably this as one of the popular film that they probably would throw a bone at, honestly, because honestly, I don't think the Oscar. Honestly, I feel like because this was at a time when I don't want to say torture porn per se. Would you classify
the first Saw isn't really torture porn. It's more of a mystery, in all honesty.
Yeah.
Because the thing is, the only time that because that's what the poster sells. It's got this bloody, rotting foot on it when it's really not about that. Sure, it's got some really disturbing moments. Mainly when describing the traps and showing what happened to other people during the traps. But the only time that you see a guy, the famous scene where Carrie Elways fucking saws his foot off, it's off screen. You don't see it. So it's really false advertising.
That is true. That is true. Because the thing is that I just think that because I know that this wasn't necessarily well received because a lot of critics at the time weren't used to this kind of even though I do agree honestly, especially compared to a lot of the sequels that came out later, the violence was honestly a lot more tame than what a lot of critics pointed out to be, but I think it might be the idea that might have been the idea that of even though you don't see the sawing of the leg and all, I think it's just the idea that pretty much threw him off or something. I don't know. That's just.
But yeah, it could. But I still think it may be another popular choice, possibly.
Yeah.
I think. I don't know if it would have been similar. I've read. If you're talking about the George Romero script for Resident Evil, I read it. It's a video on my channel if you want to check it out. But it it has the George Romero vibe, and it would have been so much better than the fucking Paul W. Anderson movie that we got. But that's a big what if. But yeah, I think Saw is definitely one of those cases where I think they would I don't think they would see it was like that, but it's like a torture porn. But I think they would, plus it was an indie movie. It was made for I don't know, $1 million less.
Yeah.
So it was made for pennies in comparison. So they might like that aspect as well.
Yeah.
So maybe I'm off on that, but I think they would, the creativeness of it, and they had to stretch their small budget at the time and all that. I was surprised with how much I liked this movie, though.
I like this movie, even though I think honestly, I think the second one's better in my opinion.
Yeah,
So,
but
but
that's when
that's
it
just
gets
me.
into torture porn. So I'm like,
That's
I'm okay
fair.
with that. So yeah, I would say they would go for that. And then the remake of Dawn of the Dead. I personally don't really care for this movie. I made a couple of videos on it on my channel, but I do think maybe zombie movies were big. Screw it. Let's throw this one in there. That's kind of the only thing I have. Maybe you have something more to say, Rob.
I mean, I do really like this movie. I can honestly see that seeing how the original Dawn of the Dead is considered like one of the best, like it's right up there with Night of the Living Dead as like one of the best zombie movies and all, and seeing how much praise it's been this remake is, and
Yeah.
I don't think Zack Snyder he wasn't a household name, and
This was his first movie.
yeah, I was gonna say, wasn't this his first movie?
And fun fact, the script was written by James Gunn. So,
now I'm kind of wishing Mark was watching. Was on here.
No, he knows that, but it's just like, but yeah, I think, but yeah, they are friends. They worked on it together. So like, I think somebody else came in and rewrote most of the script that James Gunn did. But even then, James Gunn got the credit. So, say what you will about it, but just a little interesting little aspect.
I was gonna say Mark's one of Mark's favorite director and one of his least favorite director.
I think it might be his least
close
favorite
friends.
Man. I don't know. It's either that or Caca White Titties, either one. But that's neither here nor there. But yeah, Dawn of the Dead, not my favorite, but maybe another. This would be like a popular year because again, grasping at straws, not a lot of truly great horror movies. But even then, we have The Grudge next, which is the remake of the Japanese horror film. One of the few that were actually decent from what I've heard, because from what I've heard, this was on par with the original. I mean, it had the original director, which doesn't always mean a solid yes, because the same thing happened to The Vanishing. Look how that turned out. The American remake of The Vanishing was apparently very terrible. So The Grudge, I think this is another one that would definitely make it. And it's from what I've heard about it, it also takes like the idea of like a culture shock sort of thing, adds into it, like because it's Sarah Michelle Gellar, she's like the main character. You have American character in like the world of Japanese lore and stuff like that. So I think that's also kind of won it over. But yeah, I heard that this one was surprisingly good.
I have seen this one. Honestly, I'm not really much of a fan of it. But
well, God damn it, Rob. No, just kidding.
I was gonna say, although I feel like this also would go into like the popular choice too.
All four have been popular, Rob. So I don't know what else to say.
I know. But it's like
yeah,
because it is an American it is like an American remake of a Japanese film. I haven't seen the original.
I appreciate that.
Ju-On. I haven't seen the original Ju-On movie.
Neither have I, and we'll get to that soon enough.
Yeah, we'll get to it soon enough. But seeing how everybody was praising like the last American adaptation of a Japanese film, we'll get.
Yeah,
I'm sure we'll get to that. We'll get to
that. Yeah, just in a couple more moments, minutes. We'll be getting to that.
Yeah, but you know what I'm talking about. But seeing how like that's started the case, it started it because. And the fact that everyone was just so excited, this probably will be like one of those. Maybe they'll throw a bone to it. So
yeah,
because I mean,
but yeah, I think. But it's just such an innately. It's just like I will say, Japanese lore is just in terms of ghost lore and their horrors. It's just so innately.
Although I will say, if you ever do plan to watch this, pretty much. Just a heads up, they will tell the entire story out of order. So you really have to be able to concentrate.
Oh, so it's like a splittist narrative. Okay.
Yeah, like you pretty much like it will pretty much like if you watch it for the first time, you will have no idea what was going on.
All right, that's that's a creative way of telling its story. So maybe they might go for that. So who knows? But to the last of 2004, we have Shudder. Now, we're talking about the original Shudder, which is a Thai film. I've seen it. It's very very muted, very bleak. And I think they were good. And it was a huge in terms of a cultural, not a cultural phenomenon, but like this was like the first major like Thai horror movie. So I think it marked an important point in contemporary history. So I think they would, go for that. And it's such a great concept, and the twist is very effective. And it's a very, very dark film. It's very bleak, as I mentioned. And I think they would kind of I think they would more so go for the aspect of like, okay, this was a major, it was a major, you know, point in their film history. So I think they would kind of go for that. It is reminiscent of Say Cheese and Die a little bit. But Alexandra Castro being the ultimate Goosebumps fan, ladies and gents, which is a good thing. I'm not demonizing that at all. But yeah, Shudder, great film. I recommend it, and I think the Academy would go for that from like a modern historical point of view.
I haven't seen it, so
yeah, I recommend it.
Okay.
I think it's on Vudu. I think the only place you could find it is Vudu, or now it's Movies by Fandango or whatever the fuck it's called now. I know they changed the name of it. But for 2003, keeping on the East Asian. Really? Well, you keep talking. Well, you keep mentioning Goosebumps, so I just figured. But I mean, if you're not, that's fine. Apologies.
I grew up on Goosebumps.
I mean, I love Goosebumps. Like, just you keep mentioning, so that's what I figured. But if you're not, that's fine too. But yeah, I've heard that this is like we're going from Thailand to Korea, South Korea. I have heard the American remake is again one of the few good ones. But I went with the original here, and I think I think they would. I think they would go for this one. Again, it's from what little I know about it, I've heard it's very effective, very just like a effective, bleak, mysterious movie, and I think they would like that. I don't know if have you seen it?
I haven't seen it, so can't comment.
But yeah, wait. Oh no, I must be thinking of another movie because The Uninvited was a terrible movie. I thought there was another movie that was called A Tale of Two Sisters that was I must be thinking of something else. My bad. So yeah. We go on to the next film, and that's Open Water. Again, I'm grasping at straws, guys. But this was based on a true story. They might go for that. It just it's a very very slow burn sort of thing, like to the inevitable, I guess. So they're just I watched bits and pieces of the second movie. But yeah, Open Water, based on a true.
I've seen this movie.
Was it effective? Was it not?
I mean, it's been so long. This is another one. It's been so long since I've seen. I don't know how I would feel, but it was just one of those. It's like I just remember seeing it, and I was like, that was all right. So
that was a movie. I won't remember in T-1 day. Yep, already forgot.
But it was it's just. I mean, honestly, it's you kind of know what it's based on a true story that with a couple go scuba diving, and then they go missing, kind of thing, and it's just them trying to survive the shark infested waters. So I don't know how I would feel of going back and watching it. I don't know if I'll like it more, if I'll hate it more. I don't know. It's just one of those. It's just okay, that existed.
Yeah,
kind of thing.
But yeah, again, I'm grasping at straws. I keep
Well,
saying. No,
I'm sorry.
I'm
I'm sorry for. I know I'm supposed to be like telling like why.
No, I know, but like I think I think the Academy would still again. It's probably very hard. And the thing is, I didn't want to like skip years. I mean, even though that could entirely be the case, because there's been plenty of times when the Academy has gotten rid of categories. There's been plenty of categories they've gotten rid of, combined, even brought back, and then gotten rid of again.
Though I will say this, like in terms of the Academy, like since this is another one of those true story kind of things, like it probably would be like it probably something they probably could be able to get into.
Mhm.
So I feel like just like one of those based on true story kind of things, because it was about like two divers that left the tour boat to go scuba diving somewhere else, and they went missing, and they were never found. So,
Yeah.
spoiler alert. Sorry.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the actual people were found, so that this is based on. So, whatever. But
I'm sorry.
no, because I'm reading up about it right now. But yeah, Matt Lauer interviewed the two divers, Richard Neely and Allie Dalton, who were left adrift at the Great Barrier Reef by a dive boat on May 21st, 2008. Or recreated. Oh, recreated. I'm sorry.
I was gonna say, because this was
2008. Damn. All right. No, they weren't. No, you were right, Rob. I'm so sorry. Like, I'm just trying to like read this while I'm trying to listen to you. I apologize, everybody. That was me. That was much later. My bad. But yes, sorry. Tom and Eileen Lonergan were the ones. It was in 1998, and they were left behind, and they were never found again. So
yeah.
It's dark, it's bleak. I think they would maybe go for that. So
Yeah.
let's move on before I embarrass myself further. High Tension. Funny how Devin and Zach were talking about this. I don't know anything about it, and I do plan to watch it. I know it's like a heavily like disturbing and gory movie, but like maybe they would throw it a bone.
I mean, I haven't seen this movie, but I just know about the reception. Without spoiling anything, John, because I don't want to spoil anything for you, but I will say, like, from what the reception is, it's like everything, like it's a great movie up until like until the ending, and then the ending fucks it up, and then it's like it switches over to bad movie. You know?
Kind of like
I don't want to spoil it.
No, that's fine. I know a lot of people said the same thing about The Substance, which I finally finished today. So yeah, I can see how an ending would ruin a movie or a show for people. So, but yeah, I think again, Getaway turns into horror. I think that's a good. It's just such a great concept for a horror movie that like, fuck it, might as well go for it again. And I think this was like interesting and creative enough that they would go for it. And Alexander Aja is a great filmmaker, so yeah, I think they would definitely.
To be fair, I was even told he hated the ending. So
yeah, interesting. But yeah, there sometimes that happens. But yeah, then the next one I went for was Willard, which is a remake of the 1971 movie, if I remember correctly. Yeah, and honestly, I thought it was better. And I think like again, it just like has a more like weirder, has a more surrealist and weirder vibe to it that I think maybe they would go for. Plus, it's got Crispin Glover, and Crispin Glover is a great actor, except when he isn't. Cough, cough, epic movie. Cough, 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 cough. Alice in Wonderland. Cough, cough. But I think with how they do it, I think it stays just close enough to the original that you can tell it's like a remake of it, but it does its own thing in terms of like setting and overall tone and how certain characters are portrayed by certain actors. So I think that would work. I think that would be a commendable effort.
This is one that I could I like, honestly, because it's more, because I have seen this movie. This is another one I've seen. It is more than just a remake, it's
maybe I will.
because it's like because honestly, it has a lot to say about like social isolation and all things like that, and just going into the psyche of a guy who's just been isolated. It just feels like an outcast kind of thing. I feel like that would be something the Academy would eat up. So,
but
what?
But because the rats eat, and it's also by the way, based on the novel Ratman's Notebook. So I think they would kind of go for that. Plus, it does enough different, but it keeps the overall same vibe in terms of the story, like same outline, but it does its own thing. So I respect that, and I think the Academy would respect that as well. Then here's another one. I know, but I think it's a commendable effort because it's a historical. There is some history to it, remake, and it might be a popular edition because it was pretty well liked when it first came out, and it definitely leaned into more of like the family aspect that the original film had, but then they went even further where it was like really the family aspect. So I think sorry, what were you gonna say?
I was gonna say this is honestly a case where I wish my brother was on here because he will defend this remake to no end. And in fact, I actually watched it last year because he kept talking about it. I do think obviously it doesn't hold the candle to the original, but then again, it's like nothing's gonna top the original. But anyway, this does seem like something that maybe the Academy will throw a bone to, because I know that remakes at this time were like hit or miss, but I feel like this may be something they could probably throw a bone to.
Popular edition kind of thing. But I think they would definitely go for that in terms of that aspect, and maybe historical aspect as well. Then we get to 28 Days Later. Now, this was one of the cases where it was just like everything met in perfect matrimony in terms of both the critics and the audiences, and then what it did for horror, and it exploded. It was like the perfect storm of everything because critics loved it, the audiences loved it, and it made the zombie genre fucking explode in the
this
2000s.
honestly had to take this. Honestly, I remember I had to watch this. Like I wasn't really into it when I first saw it, but then I saw it again, and I was just like, "What kind of drugs was I even on at the time?" This is why I was saying like I had questionable taste when I was in middle school, high school, kind of thing.
I didn't miss it. I don't think Freddy vs. Jason would be nominated.
No.
I love the movie, but it ranges from a genuinely good, fun movie to a so bad it's good kind of movie. I kind of flip flop.
I don't think the critics were really that kind to.
No, not at all.
But as I was saying, for 28 Days Later, I do remember. I couldn't get into it first time, but then it's like I saw it again, and that's just I loved it. And so
I will say I prefer 28 Weeks Later, but I know not a lot of people like that.
I haven't seen
28 Weeks Later was damn good. I will say.
I probably will have to watch 28 Weeks Later because isn't 28 Years Later coming out?
28 Years Later is coming out next year. They just finished filming, I think, a couple weeks ago, or a couple months ago.
And that could be But anyway,
it'll definitely be a Cool Kids review.
Cool Kids review, yeah. But this is one that this is something that like you said, the critics loved it. Audiences loved it. This is something that pretty much maybe the Oscars will get, and it pretty much did bring back the whole the zombie genre, because it's like what was the last zombie movie before this?
I don't know. I would have to look at a list.
I'm willing to bet it. If I were to guess,
probably one of the Return of the Living Dead movie because there were a bunch of like direct to video sequels of that. So maybe that.
I don't know, but this is like what and just not having zombies being like super slow. I'm coming for you. I'm going to be moving like an inch per minute, kind of thing. It's like now they're just like rampage. They're just like
Yeah.
crazy, blood filled. They're just zooming right past. They're zooming right toward you.
The running zombie.
Yeah.
I don't know if it introduced the running zombie. I will say it at least popularized it to the point they used it in the Dawn of the Dead remake.
Yeah.
But running zombies, great idea, and it's just like it really. Some people have made that like sort of distinction of like, oh, like kind of what the world was like post 9/11. I think that's looking a little bit too deep into it. But in terms of like, it's not like they needed to be more of a fucking ultimate threat, and it's just like one drop of blood. It's not a bite, or it's nothing like that, or like infected with like it's just one drop of blood anywhere, and boom, you're immediately a fucking rage-filled fucking maniac. So yeah, it's definitely scary. It's definitely I don't love it as much as everybody else's, but it's very effective. It's very, very effective. So yeah, and Cillian Murphy, man, it's fucking Kino, you know.
I was gonna say this
actor.
is the movie. This is the movie that introduced me to Cillian Murphy.
Yeah, to many people. I mean, he was in a couple movies before this, but I think 28 Days Later, he would get fucking bodied by Michael Myers, like not even a fucking contest. I will say that.
Yeah.
But
it's on it because I'm just thinking like 20. He goes 28 days later, and then in the span of almost over 20 years, he gets an Oscar.
Yeah.
Cillian Murphy.
Gotta love him. But yeah, The Ring. This is what we were talking about before. But yeah, The Ring. This was speaking of again another movie that introduced a huge trope, remaking foreign films for an American audiences. Yeah. Ironic how they were doing that way back when, like with Dracula. Then Bela Lugosi was the English version, and then they at the same time they were making the Spanish version. Now it's flipped. Now they're making an American remakes to foreign films. But this was like, here's the thing about this one. This had a great director behind it. I haven't seen it yet, but this had a great director behind it. It was well made. It was a lot of there was a lot of passion behind it. It was a lot of love. But of course, Hollywood took the wrong lesson and saw it as, what if we remake every fucking foreign horror film ever, mainly East Asian ones, and just fucking go for that? So yeah, I think I do think that I think but even then, The Ring, from what I've heard, is a great movie. I've heard, a lot of great things about it. I've seen the original. I'll say the original is good, not great. So I'm curious if I like this one more than the original. But and also famously, Lilo, the voice of Lilo from Lilo and Stitch, was the girl in this movie.
Samara.
That I couldn't think of her name. Thank you.
Yeah, Samara is her name.
But yeah, I've heard Naomi Watts is great. I've heard, just a lot of great things about this movie.
Yeah, this is honestly
have you seen it?
Yeah. Oh yeah, I've definitely seen this movie. I remember seeing this in middle school. This is around the time I was starting into like a lot of more serious horror kind of thing. I remember watching this. I'm funny enough is that my mom actually, my mom was introduced, like she went to the video store, and at the time we didn't have a DVD player. We only had we didn't have a DVD player until like a year later. So we pretty much had to rent the VHS of it.
Yeah.
Funny enough.
Ironic. That's
ironic.
Funny.
I know. But I remember loving this movie, and this, like you said, this pretty much I think this got like a lot of critical praise and all.
Yeah.
Critics and audiences loved it. And funny story, I remember a year later after I saw this, I remember spending the summer with my aunt. We went to the video store and we rented this movie. And me and her were watching it, and then the part where they show the tape, right after they got done with it, the actual phone rang.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah,
it was actually my cousin trying to scare it because he knew what we were doing.
Oh, that's okay. That's even funnier. I'm not gonna lie. It would have been really funny if it was just an accident, but if like he called intentionally, that's really
He
good.
did.
But yeah, it's honestly one of those cases where it's like it kind of speaks for itself at this point. The Ring is just so iconic
Oh, The Ring is
in both like
awesome.
Japanese and American culture at this point.
Yeah.
That it's like
The Ring is an awesome movie.
yeah,
Don't ever watch this. Don't ever watch Ring 2 though. I'll say
yeah,
that.
or Rings. I've heard Rings is pretty bad too.
Hmm.
But yeah, Red Dragon is the next one. This follows in the case of yes, Silence of the Lambs is a fucking horror movie, whether you want to fucking say so or not, Mom. No, I'm just kidding. But it's just like if we follow that, then Red Dragon has to be a horror movie, especially with how fucking
Exactly.
a lot of it, how disturbing it can truly be. Like Rafe Fiennes is so good in this, and there's like again Anthony Hopkins. Need I say more? And so yeah, there's a lot of disturbing aspects. Edward Norton's great.
It
Brett
is.
Ratner made a good movie, guys. That's crazy.
This is it's an awesome movie. And seeing how much the Academy they love Silence of the Lambs, and we'll get to that next time.
Yeah.
But seeing how much they love this kind of
Interesting.
these movies, I feel like this is something they'll definitely go for. They will definitely go for this movie.
Yeah.
I actually remember. I remember on top of. I think I've seen this movie, and I've actually read the book. The book's actually it's pretty close. So
Yeah.
and
Great.
and it's also this is also a remake for
Yeah.
Manhunters.
From Manhunter. Yes.
Yeah.
I prefer Red Dragon. I watch both. I prefer Red Dragon, but Manhunter is also very good.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think then as you were saying, Juan the Grudge, which you have not seen.
I can't say.
But yeah, it can't. I haven't seen it either, unfortunately. But again, this was kind of like need I say more kind of thing. Like it was beloved at the time, got a lot of critical praise. A lot of people seem to really like it. This was like the first of the Ju-On franchise that got like a like it got released in theaters. It didn't get direct to video, so I think there's something about that. It's a good such a creepy story. It's again creepy children, that vibe. Boom, a lot of things, and it's like low budget, so I think that would be respectable in the Academy's eyes as well. Both need to watch it, but yes, its reputation precedes it, I should say. Next is a weirder one, but I did choose the Mothman Prophecies because this is a case of where it's just a horror movie enough that the Academy would go for it because again, they don't like horror movies, so they'll be like, oh well, we'll make excuses for stuff that's close enough. And so that's this one. That's Richard Gere is looking into the cryptid of Mothman. And it's more of like a mystery horror thriller, but it's enough. And I think it was popular at the time, and I think they would probably go for that for the more like drama mystery angle. So yeah, I think they would kind of go for that as well. And Richard Gere is popular, so he's a popular actor, so they might go for it as well for that.
Yeah.
So yeah, moving on to 2001 is The Others. This was a great ghost story. It has like a lot of great spooky elements. It has Nicole Kidman. The Academy loves Nicole Kidman. So does AMC. And then but yeah, it's effective. It's kind of got a good it's so like when a ghost story is just so perfectly spooky, it just really gets me. And The Others is one of those movies. I think it perfectly does. It has like a great characterization and it's also a period piece, so that I think that would help as well. But it's like spooky where it's like horror just enough where it's not like too much, but it's still it still fits into the vibe they like. So I think they would kind of go for this. And yeah, overall great movie, and I think right up the Academy's alley. It wouldn't be like a pity Oscar, or it wouldn't be, there's not a lot of
It's,
things to nominate. It
I
would
mean,
be
I
a
haven't.
genuine nomination.
I mean, I haven't seen this movie, but I do am aware of its status. Like this is like it is. It got a lot of critical praise, didn't it?
Yeah, yeah, and that too.
Yes, like
Yeah,
it got
critical
got
and audience
a lot
praise.
of
Yep.
yeah. Because I know how popular, like how well known, and how much everyone really loves it, kind of thing. But this could be right. I could see the Academy going for this one.
hmm But yeah, next up is Session 9. This is more of a cult hit, but I've heard great things about it. And it has like a spooky hospital, and cleaning crew cleaning asbestos in a mental hospital, and like ghosts and all that shit. So like in reality bending, I think the Academy would go for that. And I've heard that it's a good, like, disturbing sort of film. I remember Mark watched it and he loved it, and I remember Devin also watched it and he thought it was great. So I'm not going just by them, but I'm just going by, like, I've heard a bunch about this movie and I've heard it's great. So I think
Okay.
they would kind of go for like a small knit, like, going crazy kind of
Yeah.
vibe. I think they could, go for that. Plus there's like a historical aspect of, like, a past, like a horrific past. I think they would like that as well.
I gotcha.
So next up is Pulse, the original. This I think has so much going for it. Because it dealt with like internet culture before internet culture was like hugely popular, and it had very good commentary, and it had very good, and I feel like the Academy would definitely go for that. They would go for
That
like the satirization of the internet before
yeah,
the
it's like
internet got super popular.
yeah. I was gonna say this is one that I could see the Oscars pretty much like the Academy going for. It is one of those. It does actually have a type of a message about like how over dependent we can be on technology, kind of thing, like the
Yeah.
dangers of like overuse of technology. Because this did come out at the I know it wasn't like the beginning of the computer age and all, but it was like right when technology was starting to grow a little bit more and more.
Yeah.
We had like stronger Wi-Fi, like
It was ahead
the
of its time, like,
yeah,
almost, in a sense. It
almost,
works
yeah,
for the time,
exactly,
but it also works even more now.
exactly,
And
because it
fucking the American remake totally butchered it. It's like it was like this
exactly,
whole, like, metaphysical idea of like how dependent we are on technology, and how it like slowly sucks away your soul, and how that
exactly,
soul becomes like this spirit that haunts you, because there's nothing to do except like stay in this place that like killed you, essentially.
yeah.
And then the American remake is just, there's ghosts in the internet. They
They
kill you.
they
Bye. It's like, it's just so like
Ghosts
simplified.
want life because they don't have them anymore.
Yeah, it's
Duh.
like it's like so fucking ridiculous. But yeah, Pulse. The only thing bad about this movie was like the pacing was terrible, but like overall it was very, very like disturbing with how like accurate it is for the internet nowadays. Like even more so back then. It's just one of those cases, as I said, where it's like it works for the time. It worked perfectly for the time. As we both said, it works perfectly.
Mhm.
And then it gets even more relevant as time goes on. It's like They Live. Like, it worked for the time, but it also gets even more relevant. And maybe that's just the case of things not
Exactly.
changing, but but it just works.
Especially now that we're living especially now that we're living with pretty much in a day and age where a lot of kids nowadays are just super glued to their phone, kind
Yeah.
of thing.
But yeah, great film, and I think the Academy would kind of go for that, like how it there's a commentary on like internet culture before the
Yeah.
internet was hugely popular.
Exactly.
Then we have The Devil's finally for not finally, sorry. There's one more, but for 2000, another 2001 film, Guillermo del Toro, another ghost film with children this time. And yeah, I remember seeing this movie, and it's just like, it's not the greatest thing ever, but it's a good, effective, creepy movie, and period piece. love a period piece. And Dark Secret, it's an orphanage, there's like a lot of like spooky things about it, and like the CGI is a little iffy, but like I think at the time it would work, and I think it would, period piece, it's about younger characters and all that. So yeah, I think overall I think it would be a great thing that the Academy would go for, and not just for, but yeah, it's just like, again, it's just a very well made movie, and Guillermo del Toro, they like him, so
Yeah.
I don't know if you've seen it, but
I
think it's
haven't
overall
seen
effective.
it. Was this his director? Was this Guillermo del
No,
was
Kronos.
this Guillermo del Toro?
Kronos in 95, 94, 95, 90. I think it was 94. Actually, it might have been 92. But Kronos was his directorial debut.
Okay, gotcha.
But yeah, this was after he did Mimic, which was just like his first big American production, and he worked with the Weinsteins, and he was fucking traumatized, which fair, because they suck. But yeah, so I think this was an effective, a very effective movie, and I think the Academy would go for it.
Yeah.
Then another movie that they would go for heavily. It's got a popular cast. It's a period piece, and it's a historical thing.
Yeah.
Boom, bang, boom. It's like the just one thing, Rob. Sorry, just like it wasn't hugely popular when it came out, but I just feel like it would. This is something they would go for.
No,
like,
I was gonna agree with you. Yeah, this is something that I can see the Academy going for, because it, like you said, it is a period piece and all. It does revolve around like a true figure that happened. Like we all know about Jack the Ripper.
Yeah.
And it features all those murders. So, so this is something that they probably could be able to. They would be able to go for.
Yep. Yeah, but just it's got Heather Graham, it's got Johnny Depp. I feel like they would definitely go for that, and I've heard it's a decent flick. So,
That's pretty good.
But yeah, I think but it would be right up their alley. Now we go to 2000s, and yes, I do think it would be a bit tough for them to go with this, but like I feel like with its commentary on hedonism, materialism, male vanity, 80s yuppie culture, I think there's a lot, and plus it was directed by a woman, so I think they would lean into that heavily, and I think they would, to do the fact there's so much, and the thing is, there's like also like a lot of elements that it like does so perfectly, like horror, black comedy, crime, thriller, psychological. So it does a lot, and it's just again a perfect storm movie where it's just that good, where it's like, all right, we gotta nominate this. And I think but also a lot of commentary aspects, a little bit of a period piece. It takes place in the 80s, which isn't too much of a period, but like it's older, so it works. But yeah, and I think performances and all that, I think they would really dig into that. I think
it's too bad that Devin had to leave early, because he would be all for this, because this is like one of his favorite movies.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But this is. I feel like this. I mean, it's obviously this is an awesome movie. And I could see the Academy, like I said before, they love movies that should delve into the psyche of like serial killer, like the minds of someone who's not there. Like any like serial killers, things like that.
Yeah.
And I feel like this could be something they could probably go for,
Yeah. But just 4 more movies now, and the next one is Shadow of the Vampire. Speaking of movies that Devin loves, here's another one. And ironic how you just rewatch Nosferatu earlier today.
Mm-hmm.
So there's that as well. But yeah, this is the fictionalized and dramatized making of Nosferatu, A Symphony of Horror in the 1920s, where it implies that Max Schreck was an actual vampire. So, and it again, period piece. It's about movies. That's another thing that the Academy loves. The Academy loves movies about making movies. So they really lean into that. And I think they would lean into that here. It's got a great cast. it's a period piece. It's got a good, effective, horror story. So honestly, I feel like what else is there more to say, And Willem Dafoe is making his grand return in a Nosferatu akin film with Nosferatu later this year. So it all works. It all works out.
And yes, I will be planning to see the 1970s remake sometime before before seeing
but no, don't worry. Whenever you can, it's good. It's good, Rob. But yeah, Shadow of the Vampire. I think that's real. This is definitely hugely up their alley. Most definitely when it's about like making movies, period piece.
They do love those. They do love those movies about making movies.
Yeah.
Although sad that but the Cinephile was never nominated. But then again, if it's not Studio Ghibli, they don't like anime movies.
Yeah. But let's not get ranting, Rob, because that might take 2 hours. So, but that's okay. We love ranting, Rob, just not right now. But yeah, next is The Gift, not the Joel Edgerton movie. This is a Sam Raimi movie where it kind of follows the exorcism of Emily Rose, where it's a courtroom after like a woman gets kidnapped and this other woman has psychic abilities. And they're trying to make a case of like as the tagline said, what would you do about a witness that wasn't even there? So it's like it brings in like a lot of those aspects, and it's like just enough horror where it works. Where it's like, okay, we'll nominate it because it's like, oh yeah, it's technically a horror movie, but it's not like hugely horror. It's more courtroom drama than anything, but it still has those aspects. It's by Sam Raimi, who's a horror filmmaker. And it's got Cate Blanchett, so good cast, and I feel like they would go for that. They do love their courtroom dramas. That's another thing they love. They do love their courtroom dramas.
Another case for exorcism of Emily Rose.
That too. So yeah, I think it's definitely one of Sam Raimi's lesser known movies. It's not one of his better movies, but in terms of it shows that he could do like more serious like horror rather than like Evil Dead or Drag Me to Hell or something like that. So it's definitely more subdued Sam Raimi, but yeah, still from what I've heard, it's a very good movie. Not amazing, but a very good movie, and I think up the Academy's alley at the very least. But yeah, next up is Ginger Snaps. This was a movie that got a lot of love when it came out. Again, I feel like if they did have a horror category, I feel like they would really like movies that would reinvent horror lore like this one does for werewolves. And the thing is, it's about women, strong, independent women who don't need no man, and reinventing the lore. It has like that close bond between these sisters, and the performances are very good. And yeah, it's smaller scale, but it's effective and it works. And there's not a lot going for it, but it was popular for the time. It did get a bunch of critical acclaim. It did get a bunch of audience acclaim. So I think they would go for that, and reinventing the lore and all of that. So I think that would work. I don't know if you agree, but
I haven't seen it, so
I don't know if you agree with what I'm saying, but yeah. But that's it. But like a lot of people love Ginger Snaps. I didn't love it as much as everyone else does, but a lot of people like it, and I can see why. It's like I could see it, just like it didn't hit me the way it hit for everybody else. So yeah, but Ginger Snaps, I think the big thing, I think the Academy would like reinventing lore, because you're doing something creative and intriguing. So, but the last film we have is Final Destination. This is the popular movie. Was hugely popular when it first came out. I don't know if you remember it. You were like 12 at the time.
I would have been 11. But I do remember watching this movie like I think I started watching it when I was in high school. I think at the time the third Final Destination movie had just come out, and I was trying to get into rewatch all the Final Destination movies at the time. So
I think there's supposed to be another one coming out soon or something. But I remember a lot of people saying like when it came out, it was like a huge thing. I mean, it became a franchise for a reason.
It is. I mean, there's 5 movies.
Yeah,
There's,
and
there's gonna be a sixth movie soon.
yeah,
But,
so exactly. But even then, I think it's popular, but it has like an intriguing and kind of different premise.
yeah,
And it did suffer through some production problems a little bit. There was supposed to be more of like a love story, and the ending was going to be like darker but happier
yeah.
at the same time. So
I know that I think for the Academy, it probably
I feel like this probably could be more onto the popular choice, but then again, like I think they probably would like the idea for it. I just don't
Yeah.
know how they would feel because like the Academy, they're lot because there's a lot of blood and gore and all, and I don't know how.
I mean, I included High Tension and Eden Lake. Those have a lot of fucking gore in those movies.
Yeah.
So,
but I mean, but like I said, I was watching this and the second one because I was like, the third one, the one about the roller coaster or something that came out in 2006, that was coming out.
that
I
was
like,
that
I'm
was the
curious
third
about-
one. Yeah.
Yeah, that was the third one, but I'm sure that this probably could be more lying. They might throw a bone or something. Maybe it might be just like the
Exactly.
popular choice kind of thing. So,
But yeah, those are all the movies for the 2000s. Remember, guys, to anybody still watching, you can choose these winners. Like, it's all up to you. So please do in the forms below, the Google forms below. There's the one from if you missed Tuesday's live stream. There is one for the 2020s and the 2010s, and then today's. You can look back, you can research these movies if you've seen them. Even if you haven't seen them, all the questions are required because like just make a good guesstimate on like your how aware you are of the Academy. Like and their pretentious bullshit. But forms below in the description. Next time we will see you is October 5th, or sorry, October 8th, sorry, next Tuesday, where we will be covering the 1990s. But that is it for today. So yeah, do those forms. Hope you enjoyed. To anybody watching, if you didn't watch us live, that's okay. You can catch us whenever. But thank you for watching, and we'll see y'all later.